So this is live. This is a live.
Yeah, it's gonna go live on YouTube.
Oh, I can't spend the nose. They wait. Oh, can't tell me home. They wait. Did you see it? No wait. They wait. I'm glad you stopped by. Take them to him, baby.
Where's Mike? Where's the mic?
Oh, the webcam on the side there. See yourself in a second here. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I
just
see.
around the TV. Andrew Isley, what's going on, brother?
What's up? How are you doing, man?
Good, man. I'm super excited about tomorrow. We got Beyond the Stage. You said is it the 10th episode?
It'll be the 10th event. I actually went away from the idea of episodes, actually.
Okay.
At first, it was hard for me to... It's funny you mentioned that word to start. Because it makes total sense from the very beginning when the very beginning, like back a year plus ago, which there's a whole, it's so interesting to be here with you. But the episode idea, because I used to do episodes in a thing called Digital Venue Collective, DVC, which is where this was the original idea came from. We did a weekly show, where we interviewed like more on the harder side of things, rock, metal bands and stuff like that. And then over time, it started changing a little bit. Things were, the bands were different, and it started to grow. And then it kind of came to a sudden stop because personally, I was like, this is growing pretty fast. Because we were doing it in a basement in Anderson, someone's basement, and I was like, well, how are we going to get a band like, for say, Beartooth? How are we going to get Beartooth to a basement in Anderson? That doesn't seem realistic. So I was like, we need an address with insurance where we can do that thing. And then the rug was pulled under our feet, and the show kind of ended. And I kind of went on. I actually got a job I got a manager job at a bowling alley. So I was going to bring the show there. I got a whole job to bring a show somewhere. It's a whole story. But it didn't work out, and then moved on. And I took my like sub name, because it was DVC, and I called it like Beyond the Stage as like my little side thing. Personally, when I would post it on like Snapchat or any social media, Beyond the Stage, because I wanted people to know this was not on a stage. This was different as you're watching. And then fast forward, that was 2018, and now we're in 2024, but we started in 2023, and Beyond the Stage Live it began and was created at Madison Live in Covington, and it's a similar show, very different in the sense of like it's structured now. It's structured with the same, but like the conversation is more podcast vibes. Before it was definitely question, answer. But now it's like, let's have a conversation and then we're going to jam at the same time in one show. Yeah. I don't leave the stage. I stay on the stage on a couch with a guest host the entire time. So we're a part of the show. I'm filming, I'm using my phone, and then we get to a great conversation. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned episode, because at first we were like episode, and it's like, no, I want them to be individual events, because I want it to be about the artist and their individuality, and the event is about them, not this episode of a podcast. I want it to be when people come in, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle are here for an event. They're not just here for an episode where their son's playing on stage. They're here for an event. It's all for them, and I like to package it that way. So I love that you said that's a great story. Yeah.
Well, it's weird when you start with an idea like this, and like you said, like humble beginnings. We're sitting in a basement. We have this idea. You have bands in mind. It's this grand vision, and then you got to worry about the packaging of it.
Yes.
Like for me, like this show started as a pandemic pastime, where it was me in the basement doing a bunch of different segments of ragging on YouTube videos, playing some live loops and a bunch of different things. And then it became an interview format, and just let it ride after that point. And it's hard to keep branding the same, keep space is the same. Like we had talked about, I'm grateful to be sitting in my parents' basement right now. I don't have to worry about someone relocating this thing. But
Right. Very nice, by the way. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah.
But it's a pain in the ass to try to say, where's the proper home for this thing? Where am I going to find people that get it? Because there goes a moment from me selling the idea to you endorsing the idea to us sharing the idea. Like, there's stages to this.
Yeah.
And it seems like Madison Live has now become a real home for Beyond the Stage.
Yes, for sure. Well, Beyond the Stage Live is the entity that is at Madison Live. Beyond the Stage itself is a journalism company at the end of the day. Interviews. Beyond the Stage is, we're not just talking about stuff happening on the stage. We do, of course, because it's musicians we're dealing with, but I want to know about like their takes on life, whether it's controversial or something a little mundane. I want to just know what it's about, what they're about, and how they navigate their life and combine it with music, because I know how difficult it is to be in a band or be an artist and working in a 9 to 5. And then when you get off there, you're like Batman, and then during the day you're doing your thing, and then at night you turn into this rock star, if you will. And people, that transition is fascinating to me, because people are in a tie and they're doing their thing, and then the next day they have keys on their side and all black and spiked shoes and their hair's done and all this stuff, and you're like, wait, weren't you selling me insurance earlier and whatever? And they're like, well, man, this is my rock time. But that transition and balancing, I want to know about that, and I have found it to be an interesting journey for me. So I can only estimate that it's similar for someone else. So when the idea came to do this like this, I'm like, let's dive into stuff no one's talking about, because I podcast a lot at Native, store Native on the Levee, and we had a podcast last night. It was great. But those podcasts were such in the zone. We're kind of like, the conversations they're flowy, but we have an idea of what we're going to talk about. With Beyond the Stage, I want no expectations. I don't want it to even, the event you watched last month is very different than this month, because it is a monthly event series is what I kind of broke it down. It's an event series.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I had a question about, I watched Kevin McCoy's episode the other day.
Love
and
Kevin,
it's like, okay, we got timestamps for the quote-unquote set list. Like, how many songs do artists normally come in and play? Does that depend on the conversation?
Well, I always tell them 5 to 8.
Cool.
I always say 5 to 8 songs. But at the same time, if we were to have a punk band where the songs are a minute and a half long, it may be 5 to 18.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if it's a jam band where the songs are 12 minutes long, it might be 3 to 5. If they do a 3 section of like, we're just gonna jam it through, I would be totally open to doing only 3 songs and 3 sections of talking, because they jammed for 15 minutes and they didn't even sing. It doesn't even matter, because the people in the crowd and the audience are there for them.
Yeah.
It's intentional. It's on a Thursday night for a reason. We're not taking weekend nights. We're taking for the people that are coming. And we understand Thursday night's a hard sell for someone that's a promoter in the city in general. Thursday's like, Thirsty Thursday, we're either going to go out or we're going to stay in. But go to a show, I don't know about that. I'll save that for because most people only go to about 2 concerts a year.
Is that real?
It's, yeah.
Where are you pulling that stat from?
It's actually a pretty common stat in the music service industry, the music industry, because people go to big concerts. The average human, we're not that way, because we are involved, but most people will plan for the big concert. Mm-hmm. They might see a buddy once or twice a year. Some people, I know someone that I hang out with often, and they've only been to 2 concerts in their whole life, and that's
unfathomable. That's aggravating,
right? I'm like, I lived in them. I mean, there was a summer I probably spent $500 in $5 tickets over one summer when I was like 17, and now
I love that phrase of $500 and $5 tickets. It's like that's a different expression of the love language of music that's close in proximity to you. Most folks imagine, when I'm going to go to a concert, I'm going to Riverbend, I'm going to see Nationals, I'm spending top dollar for that ticket.
That's what I was kind of getting at. The minimum concerts of that ticket level,
for sure. But then there's people that only perceive the local stuff as, oh, this is my buddy's band, versus a local band could be your favorite act, but there's a line between that. And I feel like as someone that spent so much time in pushing your own project, and what was the name of your band?
I had a few, but Ocean Grid was the one that I kind of put the most investment in, I guess you could say. Yeah.
And how many years did you spend in Ocean Grid?
2013 to 2019, but I only played the last show at 18. So 5 years of shows consistently, and then the last year I had Charlie, and about 6 months with her, I was like, man, it might be time. But yeah, about 5 solid years of shows on the road sometimes, a lot of locals, a lot of regionals. It just depended on what Ocean Grid was being asked of us, because like we got a little bit of a surcharge early on. A friend of ours, Levi Benton, came to a show for Miss May I. He came to one show at 86 Club, and at that point, the scene was like, oh, these guys. And I was like, and Levi just came up to check us out and stop in real quick. But the scene got word that Levi was in the building, and shout out to Levi, man, he's an awesome dude. And he came in and just gave us a little bit of like encouragement, and others saw that. And at that point forward, because I wasn't even sold on Ocean Grid, the name. But then the ball was rolling. The ball was rolling, so I was like, okay. So then I packaged it as OG, and I kind of marketed it at that point. But yeah, at the beginning, it was just it was time to be a vocalist. I was playing bass, guitar in bands before that.
No shit. I had no idea that you were ever anything besides just like not just a lead singer, but a lyricist and a lead singer and a true front man.
Sure,
rather than like that's almost reminiscent to All American Rejects. Like no one ever remembers that guy plays bass in the band. It's
right,
like I don't know what that cat's name is, but
yeah, I love bass. I think bass is I just love. I'll stand by the wall at a venue just so I can feel the bass.
Just so you can get your shit rocked by it.
Yeah, man. Dude, I tell you what. When I first got my bass, I was 13, and I was playing this game called RuneScape.
Classic.
Love RuneScape.
Going out in the wilderness and get jacked.
Yeah, right. I still play it on my mobile on mobile, but I don't play it as much. Life's busy, but it's a click game, so it's relaxing. The colors are nice, and I would just play to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I would click trees. I'm wood cutting, I'm doing my thing, and I'm playing the Red Hot Chili Peppers, learning all the Fleas lines. Yeah. And then I discovered a metal bands. I discovered a band called the Fall of Troy, the Blood Brothers, and then all these older metal bands, and then A Day to Remember, and it kind of just. I was like, I can play the same instrument, but I love the Chili Peppers, but there's more. And I kind of like.
Now, the way you're motioning, it seems like, were you a pick guy?
I was I did everything, but like now I'm, doing the guitar feel, but like I would pick, I would strum, I would slap.
So you started off kind of learning slap lines.
Slap to start.
And then, as you got into more heavy stuff.
And then I learned that the pick was way I could keep up with the guitarist quicker. Yeah. So I wanted to do slap early on, and I got to my first metal band practice in the sense of the word metal, because it was very metal. It was heavy, like zero singing. We're talking straight brutal. Eventually, I got into more metalcore, but at first it was heavy, and I'm like slapping and stuff, and the guitar player's he's like, man, you're good, man, it's cool, but slap's not going to necessarily work for this. You want to just use my pick? And he hands me the pick. And I'm like,
dude, what a tenacious D moment.
I'm like sitting there. I'm like, we're in this room, and like it's just with 4 other guys, and I was like, a pick, and he's like, yeah, just jam with us. I was like, okay. So in the basement in Union, Kentucky, and I'm just like, I don't have to hit that hard, and like it was just a moment with the amp was really amplifying it. The pick was also doing some amplification, because it's the way you're hitting it is different than slapping, where the piercing sounds and then the fingers a softer feel.
And there's such a different high-end attack of a pick. Like when you slap, you get those upper frequencies, but you get a different style of impact versus the incessant thudding that comes along with a guy who's really riding his bridge pin and he's working on that thing. Like it's a very different feeling. So talking about like the freedom you kind of have to not necessarily not work as hard, but just like a little bit more ease of playing. Yeah. Did that have you starting to vocalize and think about being a lyricist, or like how did that come about for you?
Oh, that's interesting. I think I've always been a lyricist writer. So in high school, I didn't really really care about, like, high school was just there. I was on the wrestling team. I was on the wrestling team, and then I would hang out with the musicians at lunch. So I was on two different ends of the coin there.
Yeah, you're the one guy with ringworm hanging out in skinny jeans.
I was that's so funny. I was exactly that. Ringworm's no joke. It'll get you.
Yeah, that's just fucked up. It's gross.
It never leaves you.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have it right now?
Oh, I don't have. It doesn't. Show,
Okay,
but it can. Apparently, my understanding is ringworm can stay in the system. It can show its ugly face at. It's just in there.
Ringworm and LSD, same cat.
Right.
You crack a knuckle, you could have a trip of ringworm.
Yeah, exactly. So it was definitely an interesting time. But I was good. I was an athlete. I was in varsity. I mean, I went to state tournaments. I was big in the wrestling thing. I didn't love it as much as music. I didn't even really love it. It was just more, I was a basketball player and baseball and stuff. And then I didn't grow as much as I was expecting, of course. And then wrestling was like, my uncle's a coach and did his thing. And he's like, hey, you should check this out. This would fit you. You worry about weight classes. You don't have to worry about how the tall guy that's in the center of the lane when you're driving for basketball.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, like, just try it. I got into it, and my freshman year, the guy that was like the best in state was on our team in the same weight class. So it was the coach's son. So he just beat on us, all the small guys, and just we all got good for that 1 year. Because then when you go into a match and you're at practice with a guy that's like Kyle Rochelle, he's just a beast. I mean, Wisconsin, he went to college, he does a bunch of, like, he's a coach now wrestling, like, he is doing the thing. But back then he was just beating on us, like, because he's good. And like, coach was like, get in the ring, guys, and we'd circle and everyone would take times and no one could take their turn. And no one could take down Kyle because he went like undefeated. He won state twice. He just his thing. So it makes you good because now you're in the room with real deal guy, whether it's in high school or not. Good is good.
You almost imagine at that point that, like, you're getting your ass kicked every day. How are you going to get any better? But going against someone of that stature, inherently, it's the pressure that makes diamonds. You know, like,
Yes.
you are going to rise to the occasion.
You are, and you do, because when you get on the ring and the mat with somebody else that isn't there, and you see the movement that the guy had made at practice, and you see the guy that you're in front of doesn't do that, and you saw the same situation, you're like, he didn't even do that. Maybe I should do that. And I did the same thing and pulled him down and then, like, flipped him, just what Kyle had done to me, and I pinned him. And it was just like that. I was like, and match after match after match, and I would, like, lose like maybe 5 times in a whole season. It just because working with that quality of a wrestler puts you, in that position, and then all of a sudden you become good, and then the varsity happens, and then I was 3 years varsity, got lettered and everything. And
That's awesome.
It was awesome, man. But the whole time, lunch table with the musicians. And so it was kind of an interesting blend, which makes me,
It's a weird pairing of confidence, too. It's like, I think there's a lot of... I went to an all-guy high school, so if you tended to be smaller, you probably weren't that into sports. Now, there were guys on the wrestling team that were smaller dudes, but bad motherfuckers, and they carried themselves in a very different way. But where music doesn't have that competitive edge, somewhat in high school it kind of does. Like, you can be the best guitar player at your school, the best bass player. There's a little bit of, like, pissed off fury, but it doesn't have the accolade of wins and losses and what those two things mean to you. So it's a great character builder.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too. The wins and losses. Yeah.
You got to count them,
Yeah,
like
you do. You do have. I mean, your record. I mean, there's a guy that I wrestled against, and I'm 8-0 against him.
Nice.
And he's a buddy of mine. We're still friends. He's a dad. I'm a dad. So
you never let him forget.
No, he doesn't let me forget. No, it's just the opposite, Matt. He doesn't let me forget.
He's just like still pissed to this day about it.
No, we're friends. We're cool. It's not even about that. He's a wrestling coach. Now he's doing it. He went and continued on. But like I said, I was going against someone at practice that other than one guy on their team who was a stud just like that, but he was a higher weight class. When you go against someone on Kyle's level, it just accelerates the process. I wasn't wrestling for all that long. You know, I did a concerto wrestling camp. If anyone's familiar with that, listening, that's the real deal wrestling camps that when you go in and you come out a different person because you train like military style, but it's wrestling like
Yeah, I picture a bunch of dudes in trash bags running around a hot room.
I will say I had to lose. Once my freshman year, I was under the 103 weight class my freshman year of high school. So I was I was 100 pounds. But then my sophomore year, I was losing about 15 pounds to make weight. Yeah, man. And I would never condone it, and I don't condone it. But at the time, the pressures of winning and losses, as you put it in such an elegant way compared to music, the wins and losses apply pressure. And not that I was worried about wins and losses, because I've never really been I'm not really that competitive of a person in the sense of I got to get to you first. I'm going to get there first. It's not like that. I don't see it as competition because I think there's plenty of mouths to feed. Now, when you're competing on the mat,
Yeah, when a guy's trying to choke you to death.
Exactly. But at the time, I wasn't like, oh, my record matters in the sense of it's going to make a difference, anything. I didn't really think that way. I just wanted to get through wrestling practice because it was the hardest point. And then when you get into the ring on the mat, you're like, all right, well, I want this to go as quick as possible. So you win as fast as you possibly can, and so I can get to the sidelines. And I wanted to be done with it every time. And that's how I took it. And then I would win. Like I have one match where I pinned someone in 6 seconds.
You sneaky bastard. What'd you throat chop?
Through him.
Dude.
Right away, I literally went right in, hooked, and then dropped, and they tried to pull. And as soon I stopped real quick, and they released, and I threw them over right to their back. And the whole thing happened as soon as the ref moved, I just went right into him because I saw he flinched for his foot, and I saw it happen right before, so I knew there was some nervous energy.
Yeah.
It's all about reading the situation, and I flipped him, and he was on his back, and I think he just saw it was over right away, and his shoulders both hit, and he slapped the mat, and I got up, and I took my headgear off, and I went and shook the coach's hand, and went back and ate some Subway.
What a day!
It was that was. I mean, it's amazing that those things happened. And then there was times when I'd wrestle a guy, and he actually won state in Kentucky in my weight class, and he came up to me, and he put me in the lock so fast. He was country strong, and he grabbed me, and I was trying to get out of it, and it was and those moments are the complete opposite end, where you're like, hey, I did this really cool thing about a month ago, and now I'm facing this dude that's like a Kyle level, but in our weight class, and he didn't get pinned, but he's working me, and I'm just trying to work the lines, because you work the circle, because you try to make sure you go out of bounds if they try to get you in.
Yeah.
There's so many dynamics to it, and I think that teaches you for music. I'll relate it there too, because in music, you are trying to play it safe in your own right to make sure that people want to like the music, but you also at the same time understand that you are kind of in a competition with yourself and getting to pushing the lines. And in wrestling, you're kind of pushing the lines too. You're kind of like, I'm gonna take a little bit of a risk, because if you play it safe in wrestling, but you want to play your game, you want to do your thing, you want to do it how you want, you were trained. But you're sometimes you just have to take a risk. I didn't have to throw that person to pin them. I could have just went for the sweep and then played the long game out and did my normal win. But I didn't. I was like, I'm going to throw him because he flinched. And then music, when you're jamming and stuff, and you see the crowd into it, and you all of a sudden you see they're moving, and you're like, you know what, this solo could probably go a little bit longer. I can put a little bit longer in this because I've got them here now.
Yeah.
And in the reading of situations, I compare them a lot, actually. Wrestling and music, for me, they were a great blend.
But I think when you're reading people and you're trying to manipulate the situation, it's there's a very different dynamic between having an audience and not having an audience, and how you need to approach that. And I heard this thing about tennis players where they say the time between the end of a point scored and the serve is about 11 seconds. And you have that much time to clear your mind of what just happened, whether that's someone just scored a point on you, or you're exhausted, or you're thinking about what could happen. It's you need to go blank slate. And I feel like after songs, when you're trying to look at the audience and have an idea of, do I have them? Do we need to pivot? Do we need to go a certain direction with this? You have to clean slate and reapproach. Like, whether you just bombed in a moment or, you know, as a vocalist, you understand, like, we've all said things on the mic where you're like, fuck, okay.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Moving on
The
now.
room didn't read that one well.
Exactly. So now you got to play a song knowing that things aren't going that smooth, and then you're going to hop back on, and you're hopefully going to recaptivate them and go from there.
Yeah.
But like, I think musicians tend to not be the competitive type, but there's moments where you're on the bill with someone great, and it's like this state champ wrestler going to practice with them every day. If they have a kick-ass set, and you know they have a kick-ass set, and you're opening today, you better come out guns a-blazing, or else you're going to look stupid in front of these people.
Yeah.
Or if you bring out an opener, which you should always bring out the opener that's better than you. Like, I take that from listening to Rogan always talk about Joey Diaz going out there. It's like, bring out a killer that's going to make you better. I had a project I worked on with my friend Tommy Lee, who's one of my favorite voices in the city. I had always given her so much shit for not having her own original material. And so we sat down and we wrote this EP together, and she crushed it. And I was like, cool, you're coming on the road. You're going to open up this show. And she would burn rooms to the ground. And it's like, I just had my band back up this killer that I love and adore, and I gave that set everything I had, and now I got to come out and flip this room and take it by the throat, because if I don't, I'm going to look silly in front of them.
Yeah.
And there was often times on this run where she'd have people dancing and crying and laughing all in a 30-minute set, and I'm about to have an hour and 15 minutes to try to take these people somewhere special, and it's tough on the mind. But
it is tough on the mind. Because they're already in a headspace. They're already there.
Exactly.
And you're interrupting that because they're in her headspace, or the previous artist's headspace.
Yeah.
And you got to come in as the next artist, and the change over time is a decent amount, 15 minutes in some cases, 20 minutes, but that's not a ton of time to the person who goes out on a cig and they're outside and they're talking about that set, and then you come in and they're a totally different vibe.
Yeah. What sucks in that scenario, not that it sucks, but to be efficient, we'd back her up and then we'd play our set. So the only thing that changes is you lose the person you just fell in love with.
Oh, okay. So that's even harder.
Yeah, so it's a little more violent. Like, we don't
Yeah.
get the cigarette break. We only get a couple minutes to be like, all right, go get a drink. Let's get the minds right.
Oh,
but
wow, okay.
what a great thing for your show to say, we're going to pivot, and I have something new to offer you. And it's kind of similar to when you're trying to get people to take part in something like Beyond the Stage. I go from selling it to you endorsing it to you now being a part of it. Okay,
Yeah.
I need to convince you that not only this is worth taking into your life, making space for me, an artist, to soundtrack the next 45 minutes of your life, to I would tell somebody about this, to this is something that I carry with me at all points in time. You know, whether that's your favorite band's merch that you always wear, or artists that have just meant the world to you. There's certain things you can't get around when a show captivates you like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I definitely want to kind of talk about the experience and how I think that is where a lot of the value, or where the entertainment factor comes into Beyond the Stage Live. So when the artist is there, my priority for it is for the artist to have the best time that they possibly could have. I really want the artist to be entertained and be happy that they did the experience, because the people that are coming to watch them are going to have more fun if the artist has more fun. So I'm less worried about the people in the crowd. It's a show that they're watching. It's a studio audience. They come and there's chairs so people can sit and watch, and obviously it's live streamed, but the people in person that are there seeing it and feel the energy in the room, they're there to just take in the experience. So I'm less worried about reading the room. I am more worried about reading the artist on the stage with me and seeing where it's going, because when I see the genuine smiles and them excited to talk about what they're going to talk about, that's fueling the crowd. You know what I mean? It's the crowd will get into it because they're seeing the people that they either love or they support, or they just want to see the event. They're seeing a good time happen from the artist's end. So that is my priority as the host of the show. I just want the audience to see the band or the artist or whatever it may be, whatever entity, because we've had rap, we've had every genre. I'm still waiting on metal, but
Yeah.
we'll get to that. but
We're waiting for Beartooth.
right, exactly, right.
Which I think is an awesome thing. That guy's a killer podcast I used to listen to. I can't remember what the name of that show was, but the lead singer of Beartooth, that's an awesome podcast.
Yeah, Caleb, yeah, man.
Yeah. One thing I would ask, so is there a crossover point between the end of Ocean
Grid.
Grid? I was going to say Ocean Wave. That's a plug-in.
Right.
Ocean Grid and the beginning of this show in its first inception of the Anderson Basement.
So Ocean Grid was still around when DVC was happening. We actually did one. You can actually watch an Ocean Grid DVC episode on, if you look back on the Digital Venue Collective page, which there's a bunch of them. We had a bunch of really good bands, mostly all local. So it was definitely a local hardcore metal rock thing. But we definitely, Ocean Grid played it. I got to talk about it. The entity of Ocean Grid at that point was very few original members other than the 2 vocalists and the drummer. And we had went through so many lineup changes because as we got closer to the sun, with in a sense of like the band getting more serious, opportunities for labels, management, publicists, all this stuff, as we got closer to the sun and got more heat, people are like, whoa, man, I don't know if I can give up my job to like do this. So I started seeing guitar players kind of come and go. So like the entity of Ocean Grid at the end on that is different than when we played at Bogarts and we got some cool opportunities with the full thing. But at the end, it was pretty cool to do a show where I was hosting and then I got to play. So it was just, there was definitely a crossover, but Ocean Grid was at its end then. I was prepared for it to be, it was time. I had invested a lot, not only financially, but I invested a lot into it. I was the main lyricist. I was instrumental in the instruments. I would fundamentally like come down with a couple of different guys depending on the era of the band, because it was originally Brad who wrote all the original stuff, and then he went full time with Genius Bar with Apple, so he had a kid to go. And then
that's a career path you don't see a lot of guys slip into, but that's awesome.
Apple, they told him straight up. They knew he was serious in the band, and they were like, "Hey, man, like, you need to choose a direction."
Yeah,
and
but it's a good company, especially if you're gonna do that kind of thing. But one thing, there's this crossover, and then for a lot of folks, if the main project of their life, their main band, starts to slip away or they call it quits at some point, losing their musical identity is like losing a quadrant of the heart, one of the 4 vessels that makes it go. It's a very tough thing for people to go through. Has the handoff between Beyond the Stage and its early inception and the end of Ocean Grid been part of retaining your musical identity, or do you feel like you've taken on a whole new persona in this?
That is one of the best questions I've been asked.
Chills.
Cold chills, nice. I would say Beyond the Stage is me wanting to give opportunities that I would have liked to have, and my identity is not in music. My identity is in everything that my parents raised, everything that my friends have shown me, everything that I've taken in, along with being open-minded, because I understand the world is a very complicated place. So my identity in music, I still write and I still do those things, and I'm very passionate about music and I love it, but I also understand life is long and we are in chapters. It happens in different waves. People go through very traumatic situations, which changes them, and Beyond the Stage is definitely a place where I can go and I can put my effort in and I can be involved, but I'm not looking to tour. I'm not looking to do whatever it takes to make it in the biz, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm looking to put my friends on in places that they may not be able to get to on their own, that I might have a connection, because if anything that I've learned that I've got the ability to do is to network and meet people and really relate to them in whatever situation, because I'm open to uncomfortable situations. I've put myself in more than my fair share of uncomfortable situations to grow regardless if I knew I was doing it, I'm not afraid to take a risk, as my brother says. And I'm like, you're such a risk taker. I've told him one time, I was like, you're such a risk taker. And he's like, me a risk taker? Yeah, I've done some stupid stuff, but you're the risk taker. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm not doing nearly the risks you're taking. He's like, I'm going to HI. I'm going to be plumbing. I'm doing this. I'm going those routes. You don't have any soft landing. I was like, oh, well, I didn't. When he said that, I was like, that's interesting. I've always went to these risks situations with Ocean Grid. I was just putting this out there any opportunity that I had. I was like, you know what? Let's take a metal band to the indie. Let's see what we can do there. I don't know what the indie scene's like because it was just early on, and that time was like 2014. I was like, let's see what we can do here. We don't know.
Yeah, and you don't have a lot of the social media and things like that to make it happen.
Yeah, social media is weird, man.
Were you a MySpace band?
No, Ocean Grid didn't see MySpace. I was big into MySpace. So MySpace was really where, when we were talking like RuneScape and playing earlier, I customized MySpace like anyone else. You couldn't scroll on my page. It was like one box, and we were all so good at HTML. We were all so good at computers and stuff back then at 13 years old or 12 or 11, whatever, how old you were. But that's the thing is, MySpace was, I had a lot of friends. I used to add so many people. I was on a part of those trains where they'd have to add everybody a part of it.
I'm not a MySpace kid, so really? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, they used to have these like bulletin boards. It was like bulletin. It was like just a list of things that people would post, and they were trained. So the train in the sense of the top two people, there would be like a girl and a guy. They'd be the head of it, and then all the people would have to add them, and it would be just a long line of people, and you would add everybody, and that's how people got a lot of friends. And you just add a bunch of friends.
It's almost like the equivalent of follow for a follow kind of thing.
Yes, and you'd be a part of these train communities, and people would and there were so many of them. And I was Andrew Ice, and I would just pair it with someone that would like fire different things. And we'd make these trains and just add a bunch of people, and you could accept all, so you could add everybody at the same time. Yeah, and it was very easy. And I didn't have a serious band at the time to promote. I was in bands, but I wasn't committed on the level of, I didn't know what that was. Yeah, I wasn't aware of what committing to a band to where you're like, Ocean Grid was an LLC. Like, we made a business out of it. And then I created a nonprofit. So like once I got to that point, because I wanted the nonprofit to help like employ the band, we would hire the nonprofit to do some cool stuff, and then we'd have musical entertainment.
And what was the center of the nonprofit?
The nonprofit was called the Monsters Project, and it was for bullying awareness and prevention, suicide prevention, self-hurt awareness, depression and anxiety, awareness to know that like you're not alone in this, because I deal with pretty severe depression on a chronic sense. Like, it's in my head, it is what it is. It could be bright outside, but it's a sad day, and I was like, I can't be the only one that feels this. And then I started meeting people, and I would talk to them about it. I'm like, man, this is so cool. Like, they are relating to me, and my words are actually making a difference in this person. I didn't realize the influence I may have because I wasn't afraid to talk about it, and I actually talked about this on the podcast last night at Native, but a friend of mine to this day, she said the first time she had ever heard the words mental health, mental illness, mental health, was on stage when I was performing with Ocean Grid. And now that's what her career is. She has a master's, and she's helping a lot of people with mental health and stuff. And the first time she had ever heard it and opened her eyes was an Ocean Grid show. And because I would give little speeches before the final songs are here and there. I would give a talk about Mind Over Monsters, because that was the bigger song at the time. So I was like, Mind Over Monsters, we're overcoming this. This is the monsters, whatever that may be. You can deal with it, but like, you're not alone. Yeah. And we do like gigantic choruses so people could sing along. Just moments that I have no video or photos of, but were amazing.
Yeah. Did you dissolve the nonprofit at some point in time?
It did. It was just
sounds
hard.
Like it'd be a great thing to keep, but
I couldn't. It was just hard because it was hard to maintain it, and you can be dedicated to something, but we had other people that were involved, and as I started seeing them fall away, and people either leave the band, and we tried to replace people, but having someone see your vision is hard, on top of a band already. You're like, we have a band, but we have a nonprofit. We're doing this, but and like we need help. And they're like, well, I didn't know. Start this. Like, I guess whatever you need, man. And then after about a few weeks, they realized how much would go into our work, and then they were like, well, I just kind of want to just play guitar. If that's cool. I was like, no, that's cool. That's no worries. And then me and Zach would kind of try to navigate it, and then. But eventually, Ocean Grid got busy enough to where the nonprofit was taking a little bit of a back seat, and then we were starting like aim to try to get on Warped Tour and all these other things. But the nonprofit to start, I mean, the government like send you a bunch of stuff. They sent us this suicide prevention stuff. Once they find out that you're in it to win it, and you are part of it, you get the done stuff, all the information. Once you're in it, they want you there because the government loves nonprofits, and I didn't realize how much until they started sending us like stuff in the mail, like, we are so happy you're doing this, you are this. They didn't know anything about Ocean Grid. They just knew the Monsters Project. Yeah. And I was like, that's wild. I didn't know this was at this. So many opened eyes. But then at that same time, a level of seriousness of me, when I would tell someone about it, they didn't realize how serious it was because I was seeing it in first person. And when you can't keep people you got to have hands and you got to have bodies. And if you don't have enough, it's hard to maintain it and a band. And all the shows we were playing, it got convoluted. And before you know it,
Yeah, well, like you said, like they're chapters of things, and it sounds like it was a very effective project for what you were working on, but it's hard to manage all of these separate entities, and it's hard to manage a band. And folks sometimes don't give enough credit as to what that is. And it sounds like you learned some very heavy lessons very early on as a young man that's trying to take a band to the next level, which is a full-time job in and of itself. People only see you playing the one time a week, twice a week, and they think that's all the work. It's like, you don't understand. Sorry. You don't understand the incessant battle that it is to keep yourself relevant in the eyes of your listeners and whatnot. And then to try to carry a mission that does have desk work and organizational upkeep and whatnot is it's a lot to bite off.
It was a lot to bite off. I wasn't prepared. I mean, when we set the Monsters Project up, we sat with a lawyer. You have to sit in a room for a certain amount of time and put your amount of time in with basically the council, the committee, because we just made all the band members our group. That's all it was. We sat with our lawyer. He was a lawyer that our drummer's parents owned a daycare, and his kid went there, so he was doing it pretty much pro bono. He was like just here to help us, but he's like, we just got to put our time in here. We've already completed everything, so let's got to just sit here and wait, guys. Do your thing. We had to sit in a room and wait with him. And once I realized that was like, I was like, you're keeping track of the time. He's like, I have to. You got to put this much time in, so we're just gonna do. And I was like, that's real. That's wild to think about. So when you're seeing these moments, and other people come in after other people leave, because once those moments end with your band, then it's back to music. This is Andrew's thing. We just want to help out. This is Zach's thing, and then eventually, as people move on, when things get serious and maybe members leave, then new members come in, don't understand that moment in the room with the lawyer. They don't see that, so they don't see this past. So take it on that. And like you said, when people come to a show, they think this is that one show. This is super awesome. They don't see what happens. Everything building up to that Friday night or that Saturday night, all the promotion you had to do, or
the merch you had to buy,
exactly, and making sure that let's say you're recording a song, making sure the stems are the masters, the mixing, all these different things, just to even have them interested in coming to the show in the first place. And when they get there, they're expecting you to also kind of be a host, because you say what's up to them, you get on stage, you put on so many different hats. Yeah. You're putting a lot of hats, and I think a lot of people don't realize how many hats a musician puts on.
Yeah. Especially when they're trying to get things off the ground. And I think it's always interesting to hear other people's perspective of you. I've been going through this period that I call violent introspection, where I'm trying to merge my idea of who I am with who others think I am, and that Venn diagram somewhere in the center has the real truth. And I don't think I know that just yet. And it's part of mourning the falseness of your own identity at certain points in time, and accepting the way that your actions have shaped the view from other people of who you are. So trying to work through that when someone speaks profound truth into your life, like your brother saying, you're a risk taker. Identify, own that. Make sure that's a part of your awareness when you make certain decisions. You've been there and worn the 15 different hats that it took to run a nonprofit, to run a band, to be a parent, to live in this world under all the things you've dedicated time to. And the cost of excellence is all the burning hours that other people don't see to lead up to this one moment where they can say that is undeniably fantastic. You know, and those are tough moments to deal with, because you can still put in the burning hours and get there and fuck it up.
Yeah.
And that's heinous.
Yeah.
You know?
I definitely want to touch on that. With Beyond the Stage, actually, the hours and the time that have put into this, when we have the events, the show may not have a ton of people there. It's not really about who's in the house. The venue obviously wants people there. They want people buying alcohol. They want people drinking, and they want the room filled. But I've been booking shows. I've been a promoter at Madison Theater. I was an intern in 2013. So I've been at Madison Theater we're in the 11th year. We've been doing it for a while, and I've put on every type of show. I've done headliners. I've done Madison Theater shows, the Madison Live. There used to be Backstage Cafe. I booked all over. I've helped at Thompson House. I put a Bogart show on. I had my own music venue called Coda for a little while with Frank. We did our thing. It was upstairs of Tickets. It used to be Radio Down. We've just done some cool stuff and worked with some amazing bands, and all that work for Beyond the Stage. Beyond the Stage is like everything in that one idea into one entity, and no one would really know how much work goes into it because it's not there. They don't have to know. But when the show happens, and there may be only like 20 people in the room or 10 people in the room or whatever, there's no number that it could be. We've had 70, and then it doesn't matter. It's not important. But they don't see that I get there at noon at Madison Live, and I put up I set the room. I get out there about 2. I have Charlie with me, and then we go home, and I let her do her thing, and she doesn't even think about the show. She's like playing and living her life, and I'm right there, documenting every step of the way. I love, using my camera and watching her and doing her thing, but then I get the stuff together, get to the venue, get there, 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever, and it's showtime. I shake a lot of people's hands in there. I go in there, and they don't know all the work that it took to even get in that single day. Nonetheless, the whole year worth of effort that it's taken to just build something that didn't exist before August of 2023.
Yeah, to have a ship that runs smooth is a pretty crazy thing. And one thing you said earlier is, I want this to be a great experience for the artist. If he didn't stand in those shoes, it's a pretty hard question to say what's going to make him happy. It's like some people imagine what we're out here for. What most artists are really stepping up to the table to have is to be heard and to be reciprocated in some way. It's like, I tell people the number one vocation of my life, at least at this point, before I get into parenthood and things like that, and being a good husband and all that, it's to write songs that help soundtrack a life well lived and come back to find different meanings for people. I always bring up the song Yesterday by Paul McCartney. It's one of the songs I played as a kid from my nana, who took me to every guitar lesson I ever went. And it was always just this song that we both loved. And it's one of the greatest morning love songs of all time. And then it turns into, it's the last thing I ever did while she was still alive, was play her that song. And now when I play it, I am mourning the loss and the love that this person poured into me, and that song is a time capsule of it. It's like, how do I write songs that are time capsules of life well lived, of overcoming hardship, of being in your own skin for that moment, and one day getting to step back into the visceral world of the way vibrations affect our mind and remind us of what's important.
Yeah, man, that is amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Totally.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's one of those things that really good opener there. I got to follow that. Yeah. But I had an aunt who passed, my Aunt Kathy, and she was always so supportive. And it reminds me of that. I come from a privileged family, and people that do work really hard at what they do. I'm the only one that really pursues music of any kind like that. But my aunt, anytime someone would be like, aren't you going to get a real job, this and this and this? Because the jobs I was working were, I catered food for a long time. I've worked different jobs that I wasn't afraid to call off and be like, hey, I'm not going to leave you guys stranded because you already know I'm not going to be there. I'm not in that headspace. They were aware. I came in very transparent. I was like, I want music. I'm going to work but when they'd see me work and how dedicated I was when I was in the room, because I look at it that way, regardless of when I get there and I'm in that space, it's time to go. And I'll put my thinking cap on, or whatever, maybe physical, whatever you may need from me, we'll get this done, and I'll make it as smooth as possible. And if I have some kind of issue, I'll be very transparent. I'll tell you right away, because closed mouths don't get fed. And I just really think that being in the moment and present is so important. And I would work so hard at it. And I think my aunt, rest in peace, she saw that and she was like, just go. What are you afraid of? And I was like, I'm not afraid of anything. They just always have to have comment to say. And she's like, there are always going to be comments. Just wait. It doesn't get any easier as you get older. I promise you, Andrew. And I was like, okay. And I just always think about her comments, her love. She watched me as my parents would work. They had to be at work early. My mom worked for Delta. My dad's AT&T. They both retired. But they'd have to drop me off at like 5 a.m, and I'd be with her from 5 till noon to 1, whenever they would, maybe 2 o'clock. So I'm with her a lot, and I just watched her, and she wasn't doing anything that was anything related to music, but I just saw how genuine she was. And when she would tell me that it's okay to be a little scared and nervous, but to follow what you feel, and I just started following it regardless of what anyone said. And when you say that, like, it's like a time capsule. And I've mentioned her on Beyond the Stage. We have the questions are really varied. We've had episodes. You said we've had events where, like, we've talked about crying. We have really emotional moments. We've had amazing, like Kevin McCoy one was an amazing experience. I think each one being so different, and I just think about, she would say, don't worry about what they have to say, regardless of what the show's happening, because it's not for everyone. It's not meant to be for everyone. I've had people make comments to me like, I'm wasting my time, like, you're putting all this in, and then the room should be packed. I'm like, well, really, maybe not, because that's not the band for it. There's been times when I had to get a band with only 15 days to spare. Yeah. And it was a short time, and they're the Weathered Feather. They're the stagehands for Madison Live, Madison Theater, Heritage Bank Center. They do their thing, and they have a band, super cool, from all over the United States. So they didn't have a ton of following in the sense of the word of, like, buzz at the time, but they were so open to playing on a short notice, and they had one of the best events. They just know how to talk, and they did a great job, and the room didn't have to be filled for that energy to be real. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when any naysayer might say, hey, that event wasn't my favorite, I'm like, well, come to the next one. That was only event 4. You know what I mean? And I think about that so much, and I wanna say something for you specifically. And speaking of important statements, so when I first started this, the very, very beginning of Beyond the Stage, before it had a name, because I didn't have a name. I got the dates from Frank before I had a name, actually. Because I had the dates before a name and everything set, I just wanted to do it. My goal and my plan was to do a night with Matt Waters. Serious. It's in my phone. A night with Matt Waters, because I had seen how you navigated and how much passion you put in, and you mentioned the family being a part of that, and I was like, he does. There's something to this guy more than, because we podcasted. Yeah,
we spent a lot of time together. Yeah. I mean, continue what you were saying. I don't want to cut off your thought, but it's like, there's been years leading up to a moment where we could do something like this.
Yes, exactly. And it was leading up to it, but I had just seen a night with Matt Waters in my head, and the reason I say that is because I was like, do people know what his day-to-day's like? I was like, he's out here killing it, and he is in uncharted territory, because this guy is like touring on his own music. And I talked about this last night as well. He toured on his own music, but he's also got residencies. Okay. It's rare air. Not many people that are touring and stuff are playing as themselves at a residency. They might do a side thing. They might have a band and they're like, we're going to go home to pay the bills. But you're combining like two very, very different worlds, man. When you play Fishbowl on the Banks compared to, you're like, well, this week we're in Indianapolis. I'm like, okay, he's out there. Regardless of where you're playing, you're moving in a way that I thought was fascinating. I thought it was very interesting. I was like, man, a night with Matt Waters, that's cool. But then I started thinking, but I can't do like a night with Beartooth. That doesn't make sense. I was like, man, I need branding.
Yeah.
I was like, I need branding. And then it kind of stemmed from there, but it really did. It came from that idea of a night with Matt Waters. I want to take DVC and make it more, I want to elevate it and make it a little more intimate setting. I wanted a darker vibe. I wanted when people come in, they have a studio audience vibe and a show. I'm not here to be somebody like this is about me. I'm the host. Cause I'm actually trying to find more new hosts so we can have multiple people hosting different events, and like it's journalism. So that's my ultimate goal. I'm not trying to be the host forever and always. That's not how I'm doing it. But back to the night with Matt Waters moment, when I was thinking, I was like, man, what an inspirational name in my mind, because I was like, that is, people are going to get to know this guy, and he's moving, and I don't know how he moves. It's pretty amazing. So that really catapulted me. You did, really. It's crazy we're here. Like you said, it's built up to this, because I just didn't know. I didn't have, because the Beyond the Stage is actually, it was in my notes already. I was like, maybe Beyond the Stage, because that's what I called the DVC side thing. I was like, okay, Beyond the Stage, but it'll be at Madison Live. Beyond the Stage Live, so and then I can have different versions of Beyond the Stage. Yeah. Because eventually I'd like to do like a Beyond the Stage sessions. We've got another one. I'm not going to announce it yet, but we are going to do another thing, which is cool. But Beyond the Stage sessions is in the works as well, so it's going to be a little bit of a smaller scale, where maybe multiple artists are doing it in the same night, and the interview won't necessarily be mid-show. It might be before or after. I want to do like sports vibes, so like it's like halftime interview, you know, before the game and post game kind of thing. But this one is intertwined, so we're literally having a conversation real time, and when the song ends, we talk, and then we get back to jams. We may not even talk about the song you just played. We don't recap anything. We're just like, all right, well, let's talk about, you know, traveling or whatever the case may be, who's a cook or whatever. But that's the thing, is it's just a buildup of all these ideas that are in my head, and I'm like, you know what? I want to do something that's for me, that I can help my friends, and we can all win together. Because like you said, wins and losses matter, but the wins they're not set scores.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify those things, and you know, I appreciate the fact that in our relationship, in the way that I've always been able to work around you and Jay and certain other folks in the scenes, guys like Mike Heffron, people see you for more than that show at the end of the week or that song that they know. They know the real tenacity in your life, the real drive in your life. And when people know how to reciprocate that, that's a love language that people don't understand. That's what builds up a scene in a community. What makes Cincinnati arts important? It is not the byproducts of that. It is not the singular events. It's the people that pour their life and energy into this thing. Whether it's the merch that Jay had designed that's become the number one thing on my table, that I've sold hundreds of these shirts across the country, and they put gas in the tank every time. Right. Or whenever I could come into the store and you and I could have conversations about music and life and just mutual understanding of that thing. And I feel like with Beyond the Stage, you've taken this opportunity to say, I want to let them all in to what that conversation's like without having any preconceived notions of what we need to hit and why we need to hit it. You know, just having space for the audience to feel like I'm either a fly on the wall or I'm part of the conversation. My buddy Will Hafley always says a conversation really only happens between two people. So sometimes you need to put yourself on the other end of them just to receive that. You can't imagine that it's going to start out of nowhere, that they're going to interject when you're talking to somebody else. put yourself in a situation where they have the true opportunity to ask, to wonder, and to progress that thing. And you're really doing it in a place that the greatest thing about the internet is the same greatest thing about music. It can have passive impact on your life. I can find that song 30 years after it was released, and it was exactly what I needed to hear on this day in October of 2012, whatever it be.
Yeah.
When you put these shows on the internet, you never know when it's going to be the landing point for somebody's life in a moment of need or a moment of prosper.
You said it perfectly. That was very well put, man. That is so true. And I want to touch a couple things. Well, first off, you can get a Q&A card. You get a Q&A card and a handbill when you come in. Anyone that comes in and gets a ticket, even if you get in for guest list, it doesn't matter. You come in, you get a handbill that'll give you the information on the artist and then our upcoming dates and anything, a little information, the sponsors and the website. And the other side, it's the artist and the art vendor, because there's also an art vendor that'll have their art shown there. Feel Art will be the one that'll be featured on Thursday.
What's his IG again?
The Real Feel Art.
Cool.
The Real Feel Art, yeah.
Feel F-E-A-L?
F-E-A-L,
cool.
A-R-T, yeah. Chad Coburn, man, he's incredible. But you get a Q&A card, and there's a get a pin as well, so you can ask questions to the artist on stage. And I do that in the last section. It's the very end of the show. So people can drop it in a box right on the stage. I instruct them, I tell them what's going on, ask questions, and I go through the cards, and I look at each card, and there's like a name, an email, and you can put your information. So I give you a shout out, and then I ask the question, and it takes about 10 minutes. I mean, sometimes we've had a few cards, and sometimes we've had a bunch. So I kind of filter through them. Some people say really personal things that I'm not necessarily trying to say on the live stream, but they have, and it's just a really cool part where people can get involved with the show. I mean, we've had an event where a guy that was in the crowd came onto the couch. It was a brother of the musician, and he came on and told a cool story about a car exploding and catch on fire and stuff. And it was a whole thing that they experienced, and he wanted to tell it, and we let him on. And you just never know what's going to happen at one of these events. And it's not that we're trying to be controversial or anything of sorts, because the conversation can be very light, but they can also be very serious. You know what I mean? But the crowd interaction is one of the game changers to me, because when someone's there and they can feel like they are a part of the show, they might share it because their question was asked. They might even clip it up because their question was there, and I might give them a shout out, and they're here for it. And it's not even about the clout or anything. It's just about the audience is getting an experience as well. And you're getting experience because you're connecting with the people that want to ask the question. They were willing to put a pin to the Q&A card to ask you a question. Not ask me a question, not ask the person on the couch a question that's with us, maybe not even ask anybody. They just want to ask you it because this is their time to do so. So like, because that isolated time, it allows for people to get a little bit of that 15 minutes of shine, because you know that might be, one guy was like, man, I never ask questions. He came up to me one day, he's like, I never ask questions. He's like, but I got a chance to put it on there. He's like, I didn't put my name on there. I was like, oh, you're okay, dude, that's cool. He's like, but I love that you asked that you did it for me. I was like, man, that's cool. He put one question, I knew what it was. Like, it was a personal question but I knew it was going to land well.
Yeah.
But he never gets a chance. He was very open about that. And he's like, I'm kind of a shy guy. Like, it's very cool, man. This is one of the coolest things I've experienced. And when I get those comments, I'm like, okay, we're doing something right. Let's like Jay says, let's trim the fat. Let's keep figuring this out and moving forward. And I also want to touch on the arts of Cincinnati and the people in the scene. It has changed a lot. The music scene has changed a lot since I started being a part of it about 2006. 2007 was really my start of the scene, and the Mad Hatter was around. You know, Madison Theater was big, but it wasn't really the place everyone was going to. Bogarts was still at a weird place. All these things were happening. The scene was like growing, becoming. But the Mad Hatter, that place, memories, people's childhoods, everything is in this building. And now it's a patch of grass in Covington.
Sad. There's a lot of epic Battle of the Bands that everyone kind of recounts their days of Mad Hatter, and it's like I never experienced that room. I've never played Madison live. Like, unfortunately, Cincinnati, as much as I love the scene and the arts, I'm not as involved in it as I'd like to be, because I do kind of walk this line between I'm doing, residencies that most original artists aren't playing, and I'm doing the touring thing.
Yeah.
But it is crazy when you start to dig deeper into these things and see the places that people have really left their marks. Whether it's like the 86 Club. The 86 Club was a fantastic room.
Yeah.
And now I can't remember what the name of it is, but
Top Cats.
Top Cats.
It was Top Cat. The Top Cats has came and gone
a
couple times. But 86 Club was actually the very first place that Ocean Grid had a show.
No shit.
Yeah, 86 Club, that's where that's also where Levi came in and visited us, was at another 86 Club show. But our very first show, I got rear-ended on the way to it, going to 86 Club. My merch guy rear-ended me. The merch guy was actually the guy that came up with the name, too. So shout out to Jake Holly.
You got rear-ended by a friend on the way to the show.
Yeah, I was... right? He can't even... Yeah, so...
That's so wrong.
I decided to not go through the yellow light, and he was expecting to go to run the yellow light. And
my God.
And it was yellow for a while, dude. I was like, you know what? I need to stop now. I just need to stop. We're not going to... And he thought we were going to press the gas, and he pressed the gas, and I'm like... And it had been yellow, it's like however many seconds based on the speed limit. So it was like, it's going to end in a second. I don't want to be pulled over here. I'm not about to get a ticket on our show day. Oh, what got worse? He runs right into me, and I was like, whoa, Jake. I look back, and he's like, you were supposed to go. I was like, we're in a rush. We're still like, we got an hour. We're good. 86 Club's only 10 minutes away. Like, let's not
you're
rush.
supposed to watch traffic in front of you, jackass.
Yeah. So that happened on Ocean Grid's very first show. I got rear-ended on the way to 86 Club. But, man, Chris from 86 Club, man, he was such a good dude.
Great people.
Yeah, great people. Yeah.
By the time it became Top Cats, that was the first room that I've ever hotboxed a green room, and it was with the funniest guys, and I was like,
great dudes too, man.
Yeah, amazing guys.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not an appropriate call, and they're like, dude, it's fine. I'm like, okay. It's not necessarily my vibe, but I was like, this is hilarious, and I will treasure this memory forever.
It's all about those moments. Yeah.
But whether it's Bogarts or whether it's Top Cats or these rooms that become defining moments. Radio Artifact is a huge room for me emotionally, because it's where we've done our last 2 live albums. You got to pick and choose your spots where you really try to pull together your Cincinnati crowd. And one thing we kind of touched on earlier on, it's harder to convert family and friends into believing fans than it is to take a stranger and for them to find this thing and say, that's for me.
Yes.
Because they have this preconceived notion of who and what you are. And it's events like Beyond the Stage that help to walk that line between saying, like, I know your material and I know you, but do I know what's between you and your material and what is kind of the driving force in this? So starting to walk into those conversations, to answer those questions, helps to expose the people that are closest to you to what the rest of the world is looking at, and what they might find special or off-putting, or help to try to bridge that gap between you and your art and how they fit in there.
Yeah, it does bridge the gap. And that is a big part of it for me, because I would get on stage when I'd perform an Ocean Grid, and I had a mic in my hand, and there's nothing like having a hot mic. There's nothing like having a hot mic. Having a hot mic. And knowing that everyone in front of you is going to take in everything that you say. There's nothing like it, whether you have important things to say or you're like, the song's called, and that's it. Whether it's just the song title versus giving them a speech, because I used to give speeches like, you're not unloading this. If anyone's seen us before, put your hand up, kind of a thing. If you haven't, or if you have, you put your hand up. I want the ones to come closer who hasn't. I would try to get the people that haven't. Let's get close, and let's get the new ones. Let's get there. Let's get in your face. And I would scream in people's face. I would hand the microphone off. I would see a dude and just hand the microphone off. I'd see if it was like a girl standing next to a guy, and I could just tell it might be like awkward tension. I'd hand him the mic, give him his time to shine, let him scream into it. I did quite a few times because I wanted him to just have a moment. I don't know his rock. I don't know if he's in a band. I don't know anything about it. But if he puts his hand out to take it, I'm like, there, get it, dude.
Yeah.
And I'd let him do it because I would run back, get a drink of water. I had another vocalist, Dustin, so he could take care of the singing parts, and I would just let that experience happen for who I was handing the mic to. I did a lot, and it created such dedicated fans. Someone created a street team and a fan page for us. People got Ocean Grid tattoos. Yeah, there's at least 3 of them.
Yeah, that's the real dedication. My buddy, I'm super excited. I'm playing Summerfest in a couple weeks. Me and Jimmy Klepper are going up there.
Okay, yeah.
And the guy that organizes his stage, his name's John Rouse. And then I met him through our buddy Party Marty, and he has a band called Party Marty and the Dirtbags.
Okay.
And Marty is a cult leader. Okay, and then I see all these people come up and they want to buy merch, they want to chat for a second. And I'll just be casually talking with them, and I'll see on their forearm, the Dirtbags. All these people got this fucking tattoo. I'm like, what kind of weird shit's going on in Milwaukee? You know,
Right,
like,
yeah.
This is starting to be scandalous.
Right. No, that's interesting.
It's a big step for people, man.
It is a big step for people. I mean, I still have a photo I could find in 2 seconds. It just on guy's arm, and it has "Mind Over Monsters," which was lyrics, and just when people came to me and they're like, "Hey, man, I got a tattoo of your stuff," and the first time that happened, I was like, I don't even have a tattoo. I have no tattoos. Fun fact. The goal was to get the band signed, and once the band got signed, then I was going to get tattooed by the guy. Like, I was offered to get tattooed by the guys in Devil Wears Prada. We were working with them, with Chris Ruby at the time, and just, we were on their bus and just hanging out, and he's like, "We'll tattoo you for free," and this and this, and I was like, nah, I'm waiting till we get signed. He's like, "I respect it, man. I respect it." And once we get signed, I was going to do my thing, but I wanted to see if I could do it. You know what I mean? My drummer had a skull on his neck. You know what I mean? He had tattoos everywhere.
Dude,
like
the Adam's apple tat.
Zach was covered, and I'm just like, I got none, and I'm going to just keep it moving. I don't think a tattoo's making me or breaking me, but they did tell me a few times, they're like, "Man, image is part of this. You are going to have some extra hurdles to jump when you may not look the part." But I had like my hair in a faux hawk. I didn't wear hats at the time. It was just, I was looking the thing, but they would tell me. They would be pretty transparent. Like, there is a look to this, man. And I was like, well, I'm doing me. And they're like, no, we respect it, but you might see a little bit of a turbulence. You might not get So
one place where people were like, "You don't have hand tats? What the fuck, dude?"
Right. Like, what are you doing? Are you even a musician? Like, do you know how to play? Like, doesn't a tattoo give you the powers? Like kind of a thing. But
this is bizarre. I've received 2 Amazon packages in the last month of it's like tattoo bandage wrap. I didn't order it. My mother didn't order it. My wife didn't order it. It's addressed to me at my home. I got it the first time. I was like, that's fucking weird. I didn't ask for this. Then I got the same package again, and I'm like, I believe in science from the universe, but it doesn't happen through Amazon, okay? And I don't know what's going on. I am planning on getting some new tattoos coming up soon, but if someone's sending me shit, please stop.
Yeah. At least let me know who it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Send me a nice worded message, and I will thank you.
Put a note on
it. Right. That's an interesting thing to send somebody. Very specific.
Very specific. Very
there's a message.
It's not like a gift. It's a utility product. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want from me?
Right.
But whatever. Brother, as we start to conclude today, is there anything else that you would like to promote? Anything else where people can follow you to be prepared for?
To promote? There's always something to promote, but I'm really not here on the promotion, and I do want to promote the show, of course, but the show will happen Thursday. We're going to have a great time. I'm most excited to see people's reactions and just see their faces in real time. Huge shout out to Mike Heffron and John G. Furry. These guys I partnered.
John G.
Yeah, I partnered both of them in. We're a team. They do an incredible job. We've got each other's backs through and through. We go way back. When I started thinking the idea of a night with Matt Waters, if you will, I was like, I'm going to go find Mike. I'm going to go find John. And I had another guy in mind, and he has other stuff going on, so we couldn't make that work. But I wanted the best people with the most passion to be in my corner and with me. And this isn't just like, oh, like, we're going to do this, show up whenever. No, we have meetings. We have conference calls. We take this very seriously. But we are here for fun. We're here for a great time, and to also just spread some love. And I I I have anxiety like anyone, and life is hard, and you never know what tomorrow brings, and health and all those things. And having inner peace is so important to me. And music is an inner peace. But I am not in the position right now to play music like that. And one day my daughter hopefully will see me on stage, and she does see me on stage. She's at events. Charlie comes to the events. She's there for a little bit until the babysitters take her. After usually the first section of talking, they head out. But I kind of look at it like this. Like, I say, I'm building it piece by piece for inner peace. Because this is all just building. I ordered the couch. I ordered the flag. I get plants. There's plants on stage, so we're jamming with the living. I just want something that when you step in that room, you only can find it that night. And if people see it or they don't, but they may see post-show on social media and different pictures, and they're like, man, I heard about it, but why wasn't I there? I'll catch the next one. And I've had people like, man, I'm not going to miss one. So I've had people repeat, we're still building. We're about to be number 10, which is crazy, double digits. Very exciting. Thank you for being number 10. That's very exciting.
I'm touched by that, man.
Man, it's awesome. It's so crazy, too, because to full circle, like the Night with Matt Waters idea, now we're here doing 10.
Yeah.
10 of them. We started August 24th, Kobe Bryant Day, 8/24, with a band called Season 10. Jared's super cool dude.
I love Jared.
Yeah, man. He agreed to be the very first one, the guinea pig, and huge shout out to Jared and the guys. I think Season 10 to no end, because without the first, you can't get the number 2. You know what I mean? And then Rye the kid, he was number 2, and he brought energy, and he was my first hip hop. So like, it was kind of like we're genre jumping here.
Yeah, DJ Easy and I went to grade school together. I watched that episode yesterday too. Demir Epperson is my boy. He's been on the show before.
That's cool.
That cracked me up, man.
Yeah, man. That's a thing, is you never know who's gonna be on that stage. Like this last one, we had Beloved Youth on May 30th, and Farmer Nate Nunamaker, Farmer Nate's Hot Sauce.
Not familiar.
He is based out of Covington. He was the guest on the couch. So I had Hot Sauce owner on the couch with us having the conversation, because we all go back. We were all childhood friends, and it was a really cool moment of all of us having me and Nate were in a band together back in the day called Honor Code, like pop punk kind of thing with a little hardcore. But now we're adults doing our own thing, and for them to be on the couch with me, and it's just all these cool moments. I can bring my friends, and we're doing something. I mean, we're interviewing, it's an interview, but we're taking it to another level, and it's live streamed. So if you can't make it, watch online, make the next one.
Yeah, and the show is linked in the description down here, everybody. So please subscribe. You'll get the live notifications for when things pop up. You can watch previous episodes, and engagement drives everything. So get involved in the comments while it's going on. Get involved in the comments and posts, like, subscribe, and all that stuff.
Yep. And then come down to Native on the Levee. Watch our podcast there too, man. That I wasn't necessarily here to promote stuff, but Native on the Levee, Newport on the Levee, the Native brand. Me and Jay Banks work very hard to just think outside the box while trying to put in those 4 walls of a box and trying to think where we're at. And every single day we've been working, and I mean, we're in December will be 5 years of us doing our thing. So it's pretty cool as long as it's been. And huge shout out to Jay and everything we're doing there, and the sponsors. I have sponsors that I'll talk about on the show, but we have dedicated people that really want to be a part of things. We have a law firm, a cleaning company, a company that prints merch that's not even us. And we have Leaf and Limb on the levee. They provide the plants, and I have these awesome people. And I think it's a relationship industry. Yeah. And I think that's something really too important to remember, is the people that are doing stuff that you don't even see them, they're helping fuel something to allow Matt or, Millie Oliver and the Missing Pieces, or TV shows, or, Kevin McCoy, them to come on and talk for some time, because we're talking, there's about 30 to 45 minutes at least of conversation. Yeah. And when you're on a show, a normal one, you don't really get to say a lot other than that, like maybe a minute in between. But this is the time when you're like, all right, this song, let's give 5 minutes on this because it's about a loved one or whatever that may be. that is totally where everything's on the table, and I want people to remember that when they come to a show. You just don't know what it's gonna. You're not gonna. And I'm not here to like bait anyone in either. I want you to know like you're here for someone that you care about.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's gonna happen then, and there's a little bit of an excitement to know that like, oh, I might see something I've never seen before, and I'm gonna be in the room for that. And I think I love the feedback that we've gotten. The feedback has been incredible, and I'm very grateful for every person that has stepped in that room or every view we've had, because this is like created from thin air. And yeah, it's the past coming to the present, but you know, tomorrow's not promised. And I just want to remember that. And I just want to take each moment every time. And there's a lot of work, but I'm happy to do it because I don't think of it as work. I don't go to Native or do this as work. It's just living my life and playing my game, if you will. Like, it's just what I want to do, and it's the pocket I've found, and it's something I can help raise Charlie in, and it gives me fulfillment. And you know, it's also pretty cool to be with some cool musicians. I got some awesome friends that are amazing, and I mean, I'm booking into 2025 now, so we're talking.
And if folks want to reach out about booking,
yes, BeyondTheStageLive at gmail.com. You can email us there. Everything's Beyond the Stage Live. You can just get a hold of us or through Instagram and be like, hey man, I'm interested in being a part of it. You can be a solo artist. We're talking about a bunch of different versions of this going forward, but we had to get to 10 before we could really get to 11, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing that our worlds are combining as much as they have, and we've gotten to know each other, and I appreciate you for having me on.
hell yeah.
Man, this is cool. When you asked me, I was like, oh, this is super cool. I am normally doing podcasts where I'm having them on, so to be a part of, to walk into your world and this super cool setup. He's got a really cool setup here, I'm just gonna say.
It is in my parents' basement. It's very
That's
humble.
okay.
But I mean,
It's still cool.
you know, like you talked about family and whatnot. Like, if you come from a supportive place and you have something to share, then you share it with the people you love. And clearly, all the wins and losses of your career have brought you to this point where you have something to share with people. And the fact that you do is a real blessing to all of us in the scene, that you continue to give a stage to. All the folks that come through Native, that y'all help with merch and things like that, myself included. You made huge impacts in that. So nothing but love, brother. Thanks for being here.
Same to you. Nothing but love, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow night, motherfuckers. Come out and party. We appreciate you. Much love, y'all. Peace.